Strength builds have always been my favorites across the entire Souls games. And then they just feel so overpowered that literally nothing can even stop. Like, you can even make broken builds out of some of the best weapons in their class. Lies of P, you can make just ridiculous combinations over and over. Like, even some of the best, they'll just be able to cheese everything. Which is why we're gonna go over probably the best motivity build in Lies of P. And remember, this is my opinion, and drop a comment saying what your favorite build is across the Souls games. For pretty much every motivity build, the most popular is just the big pipe wrench head and the Capolice baton handle, which can make this pretty early on with insane Fable arts. And the strongest hit you could ever get is that you use Strike Chance with fully charged up Patient Smash, which does ridiculous damage. And also, you can use Strike Chance while doing a Fatal Blow too, which also increases that damage, but you already have the Assassin's Amulet, which already boosts the damage of your fatal hits. But there are some other motivating combinations. I have Puppet's Axe Blade and the Exploding Pickaxe handle, which gets ridiculous speed, fast heavy attack from light attack combos, gets away like that pretty fast. Then it gets Conserve Energy, which is amazing because this combination costs so much stamina, as well as all the other motivity weapons as well. And then it gets Killer Attack, which Killer Attack does not break through stagger gauges, but it does do ridiculous damage. But you can also use Shot Puts, which is the only motivity throwing items, and it can easily stagger any boss or enemy. And then you just literally get to rinse through everything. Like, it does so much damage. It's probably the best throwing item in the game, compared to the Saw Blade, which is a quality throwing item. But I'm not going to put it any higher, but it did make me think that I'll let this weapon up by the Bone Cutting Saw Blade and the Bramble Curved Sword handle, which I did make a video of saying that was the best motivity combination, and I kind of fell out on that. The Bramble Curved Sword handle is more of a quality handle, so it doesn't get an A scaling in motivity, and you can't upgrade the scaling the more you reinforce it. And you can put the Bone Cutting Saw Blade with stuff like the Exploding Pickaxe handle and the Military Shovel handle, which is pretty insane. One of the Exploding Pickaxe handle, it gets that Conserve Energy with insane range, and just the Military Shovel handle for even more range. However, it doesn't give you like an effect, but it does get a faster moveset as well. Or you can simply just go with the Live Puppet Axe handle, which this weapon is still amazing on its own, placed with Endure, which is probably the best Fable art in the game since you get to tank almost literally any single attack. Gets a lot of range too, but unfortunately it's the heaviest handle in the game. And then this weapon hits so slow, but also does the highest physical. I think get this in Chapter 8, which is pretty late in the game. So you can just use like Bone Cutting Saw Blade with the Exploding Pickaxe handle before you even get this weapon. It's still pretty insane. Or just use the most popular combination. The motivity build isn't really packed for Legion arms, but we are going to talk about the Legion arms. But like the only motivity Legion arm there really is Ex Machina, which is probably one of the worst Legion arms in the game, because literally it takes forever for that same landmine to explode. Then it's also really heavy as well, but you can extend the range of it, but that won't improve anything else, because this Legion arm straight up sucks. You have to just use like a quality or technique Legion arm. It's actually not that bad, since it actually came down to 3 Legion arms for this build. Those would be the Puppet String, Falcon Eyes, and Aegis. The Falcon Eyes might actually be the worst, because it gets all that technique scaling, which only improves like the damage. The Puppet String's damage doesn't really matter, because the more you reinforce it, the more OP it gets. The Aegis is pretty cool. It gets more motivity scaling than others, and is, of course, better than the Deus Ex Machina. It is a quality Legion arm, but unfortunately you have to do it with melee attacks, since the shield explodes, and if you block like a range attack, it'll just explode on nothing. Like, seriously, you just gotta do it on a melee, So the puppet string will probably just be the best out of all these. The falcon eyes can still do ranged missiles. They can go still farther than the puppet string and do almost as much damage as the Deus Ex Machina while still being able to shoot. But the puppet string is still definitely the best, since when you have a fully upgraded, you get a tackling, which allows you to do an insane follow-up with doing massive damage, and even being able to do stagger damage. It's probably the best Legion arm, but at least we do have the DLC, so there's a Motivity Legion arm in that DLC. Amulets shows like 4 of the best for Motivity builds, and remember, before, this is my opinion, and of course, put on your favorite fashion before doing any of this crap. First amulet is the Patience amulet, which is great for these Motivity builds because it looks like the Chlorine 3 ring in Dark Souls, where it increases your stamina recovery speed. The amulet will be amazing since you don't have to level up so much capacity. And then it increases your weight limit. You can get it so early in the game at like chapter 4. And then you don't even need much capacity for this build because you have the Carrier's amulet. Next amulet is the Art of God amulet, which is one of the 10 boss amulets in the game, because there's 10 boss ergos. But it temporarily increases physical damage upon a successful attack, which you'll be pretty much getting those successful attacks pretty much like all the time. And stacks up to like 4 buffs as well, which is pretty insane. You get this amulet in like chapter 7 after you kill Victor. But anyways, this amulet stands out as a good amulet. And then the Conquering amulet, which is another boss amulet you can get earlier after killing the King's Flame Fioko. I know you can get the Holy Sword of the Ark, but no, simply just don't. Just get the Conquering amulet instead, it's better. Upon successful perfect guard, temporarily increases damage inflicted by weapon attack, which is amazing, because Sekiro also has deflecting, that's what training for Lies of P. And then anyways, just get those perfect deflection, it won't be too hard. And then you'll be able to buff your damage by like 20%. But unfortunately for only 1 hit. Now coming to the defense parts, we'll do the LADA F350 frame, which its weight is 26.4, which is pretty heavy, but has the highest physical damage reduction rate. However, you get this in the final area of the game. That's alright, since it's pretty much just a new game plus build. And have any large capacity converter you need, because these have great defenses. It's like electric blitz, fire, and then acid. It's pretty cool. And then any cartridge or liner you need as well. Like if you need disruption, shock, or break, or just any of the other liners as well. Organ, you'll mainly want like fable slots, pulse cells, and amulet slots as well. But all the Phase 1 perks are just amazing. The staggerable window is great to keep missing those attacks, but otherwise you can just use shot puts. Link dodge is amazing, since when you target lock on anything in quick step, it actually has lower iframes than actually rolling. So link dodge will definitely come in handy if you're targeting. But this is also like in Bloodborne, which is one of the faster paced Souls games, which has quick stepping, which is amazing because it's more fast paced. This game plays slower, but at least you get that link dodge in there. It's amazing. And then of course you need those pulse cells and fable slots. But then when you start passing phase 2, which yes, those pulse cells, they'll just start becoming like levels instead. Like increased pulse cells in 4 and then 3 as well. Which actually isn't that bad, because now you don't have to get actual perks. But we will have 4 amulet slots. And phase 5 is sort of like a new game plus phase, since you only limited to getting a certain amount of quartz, so you can't really get like all of the perks unless you have like a certain new game plus cycle. But anyways, you don't see increased staggerable window again until like the 5th phase, which just increases the staggerable window by just a longer time. But you'll need like amulet slots and fable slots. Now you'll have 5 fable slots, 4 amulet slots. And then all the phase 3 perks aren't really that useful. Cube uses won't be great, because the cube is pretty much useless. You won't need the fruit unless you really have to do respec, but you probably shouldn't just do respec if you're focusing on like one build. because it takes a while to reinforce just one weapon. Enhanced pulsar recovery won't be that amazing since your pulsar recovers more health the more vitality you level up, just like in Bloodborne. And then there's belt slots, which you already have 3 separate belts holding 6 items total. So you won't need any of the phase 3. Just keep working on like phase 1 and 2. Then you'll be already at phase 4, which just has the better perks. Part of this build is the stats, which we're going to start as the path of the sweeper, which we will have 30 vitality, so we can have a ton of health, 20 vigor, so we can get that extra stamina in. Also, conserve energy if you have the exploding pickaxe handle, and with the patience amulet, and 22 capacity to put down the massive weight as well, which they did the same thing as in Dark Souls 2, which I definitely hated for my strength builds. They separated equip load from endurance, so now they have to put it in its own separate stat, which makes leveling up even worse. But as long as you have the carrier's amulet, we'll be alright. 5 technique and 6 advanced as well. Also 40 motivity for the weapon scaling, just so we can get a ton of scaling, since most of our handles will have an A scaling in motivity, which is pretty insane. Or if you use the Noblesse Oblige, you can get an S scaling, which that's the only weapon that'll get an S scaling, pretty much. Unless there's some handles in the DLC. But anyway, these are the stats. This is the entire motivity build. Hope you enjoyed this insane motivity build. And also, like and subscribe for more.